is the final session and I need to start it because it's 30 ideas in 45 minutes. So it is quick fire. Each speaker will come up, get 5 minutes. I have the stopwatch. They're looking at it here and boom. If they don't finish in 5 minutes, I've got a big hook and I'll pull them off. So I'd like you all to enjoy this session. It's the last one of this particular episode of Radio Days, and we're very delighted to bring 5 amazing speakers from Indonesia, Philippines, Australia, India, and Indonesia again. We've doubled up on Australia and Indonesia. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Malika, who is a journalist with KBR Media, who are one of our local partners. Malika presented earlier in the news session yesterday. So there's a clicker here. You can go with the handheld or that. And if you click, click once and your presentation should start. Yeah, and again. Okay, and I'm setting the timer to go.
Okay, hello again, everyone. These 5 core ideas that I believe are essential for us to think about as we build the future of news journalism. First is transmedia storytelling. We have to stop thinking in silos. We are not just radio station or podcast producer, we are storytellers, and our stories need to live everywhere our audience does. Transmedia storytelling is about taking one core idea and tailoring it for different platforms. Yesterday I talked about Planet Plate as an example. So we're not just making cooking podcasts, but we tell the stories in our podcasts, videos, infographics, in-depth articles. Also, we are building an ecosystem where the audience can participate. We receive many stories and local receive from our audience. So it's about adapting the stories to fit the platform. Second is bring the content to audience. So with the transmedia storytelling, we go where the audience is. The data is clear. Young people are getting their news from social media platforms. So we cannot expect them to come to us. We have to bring our content to them. This means using platforms like TikTok for live updates and Instagram for quick, digestible content. Show our audience a face that represents them so they can feel relevant to our stories. And then we go beyond the headlines, answer the why. In today's fast-paced world, headlines are not enough. Our audience is looking for a deeper understanding. They want to know the why behind the news. Why did the protest happen? Why is this news government policy so important for them? So our job is to provide context and analysis, not just sound bites. This is where long-form content like our podcast becomes so powerful. We can bring an expert and have a real conversation that gives our audience in the full picture of the stories. At KBR, we say jelasin pakai bahasa bayi, atau in English, explain it like you talk to babies. We want to explain things in simplest way possible, especially to our younger audience. They have little attention amidst the tsunami of information. 4, don't forget the people left behind. In crisis, it's often the most vulnerable people who are left behind. As journalists, we have a responsibility to seek out and amplify their voice. So it's our commitment too in KBR about inclusivity, means our journalism must reflect all of society, not just those with the loudest voice. And the last is think about before you publish. Maybe this perhaps most important because this world is so noise of information and pressure also to journalists this day. We must take a moment to step back for a while before we hit publish. We have to ask ourselves, is this relevant? Does this serve the public we are here for? Does this meet our core values, standards, and ethics in journalism? So it's the very definition for us about future-proofing journalism. In the end, I want to congratulate for us who have survived this far with incredible innovation and resilience. Thank you.
Woo, 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 woo! And you did that in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. So I think, wow, amazing. The temptation is always to think, why don't we do all of our sessions like this with just 5 minutes and condense all the information? But that's something for maybe next year. Next up, Daniel Ahern from the ABC, and he is going to talk to us about what he does in 5 minutes. Reset and go.
Thank you, no pressure. So I'm going to just distill the 5 key points from the Creator Program, which I run at the ABC. That's a team of 8 quite famous Australian YouTubers and TikTokers who we've brought in to work together as a team with videographers and sort of utilising our production capacity. And they are working across our charter areas, so religion, history, geography, economics, comedy as well. Publishing across multiple platforms. And they're sort of sitting at the heart of our youth strategy. And last year alone, they got 120 million views from mostly young Aussies, which we thought was great. And we had a bunch of commissions that have come out of that. So my 5 points that I want to make, although there's no slide as far as I can see,
No, use the clicker. Use the clicker.
Oh, the clicker.
Yeah.
The magic clicker.
There you go.
Here we go. All on one slide. So creators are the future of media talent. And when I say creators, I mean YouTubers, TikTokers, and we should want all our radio and podcast hosts to have the digital following and cut through that creators have. And you can get that. You just need to hire them. It's actually quite easy. And there'll be a whole lot of reasons why people will say no, but we did it, and I tell you, it works. And this will be key to staying relevant as Gen Z and Millennial age up and become all your core audiences. Because they resonate more with creators than they do with traditional media talent. So what I'm going to suggest as my first idea is that we need to flip the script. That it's actually easier to teach traditional media skills to creators than it is to try to make your existing traditional media talent into creators. I had someone in my team, Aslan Pahari, who had 7 million followers around the world talking about history and religion on YouTube. Try to tell your radio announcer to just build 7 million followers. Like, it's not going to happen. It really won't happen. But what you can teach them is radio skills. You can teach them presentational skills. Editorial skills, if you're a public service media company, can be taught as well. And journalism can be taught too. And I would say, while those things are not easy, they are easier than building a following like that, which is so powerful. And I would say too, when they do TikTok Lives, that's radio. TikTok Live is talkback radio in 2025. So they have some of those latent skills already. Second point, creators are your audience infrastructure. So if you've got an audience gap in your media company, if you're struggling to reach, say, 24 to 28-year-old men, you can find the creator that serves that gap. You can bring them into your organization. You can create content with them and use the cross-posting features on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube has that functionality coming too. And you can make content for your own platforms while also tapping directly into their audiences too and reach the exact underserved audiences that you might so desperately need, at least we do. Third point, we should all think like creators. So traditional media companies, the classic thing is the TV package or the news package or radio news or a longer podcast. But creators are thinking about 3-second hooks. They're thinking about 30-second hooks. It's quick turnaround and you have hours, not weeks, to respond to trending topics. So I think we can learn from creators about minimum viable product production. If they can get millions of views just with a phone in their bedroom, what does that mean for traditional media companies who are essentially trying to convey the same sort of information but with much larger teams? We should be asking how much of our production is actually necessary for the information or the story we can convey. Okay, I'll do the next one really quickly. But I think that is the secret to making our fixed funding go further, again, if you're a public service media organisation. Podcasting and radio. I think this is a great training ground for creators. I think you can start creators as guests on your radio shows, build them up to guest hosts and bring them through. And podcasting is basically just YouTube videos now. And so there is actually a very small gap there for them to come across. And the final point is that creators will be the production companies and IP owners of the future. It's not just about talent management anymore. That creators will be very valuable on talent rosters. They'll have agents, and they'll get more expensive over time. But increasingly, when you deal with a creator, you should think about the fact that you're dealing with a fledgling company, and they're building companies of their own, and they will increasingly want more and more of a stake in their IP, and that will be a battleground in the future, I think, for traditional media companies and creators to navigate. Thank you.
Woo! Big round of applause for Daniel, everybody. He only went 2 seconds over time, which is amazing, seeing as how he was at 3 minutes and still on point 2. So well done, Daniel. Next up to the challenge is not Nicken, but Rado. So this is the next speaker has the honor of being the very last speaker added to Swap Card on this year's Radio Days. I just added him about an hour ago. Welcome to Rado. He is the co-founder of Noise, the audio platform in Indonesia. They're our partners for Radio Days Asia. We're delighted to have you on the stage, and your 5 minutes, if you want to use the clicker to get to your slide.
All right.
Your 5 minutes starts now. Go.
Cool. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I know this is the last session. Hopefully, it's an exciting one. So I think I'd like to take the 5 minutes to tell a story around a podcast that actually makes $1 million on Noise. It's a rare thing for a podcast that actually can make that much of revenue, but I think there's a lot to learn for that kind of story. So, as you have heard in the previous session, actually Noise is an audio platform in Indonesia, which is part of the Malaka Radio Integra. We're the largest, and we do streaming of radio, podcast, and also audiobook, right? And the way we think about this is basically how the radio can also be transformed into a digital platform using a platform like Noise. So in the way that how actually we make money in the earlier days, I think it's common that actually in the industry of podcast or radio, it's coming from the advertising. So that's what actually we do. We have the inventory for the ads to be streamed on the content. We also have the services like helping the brands to make podcasts with us, because we already have the studio, we have the crew, we have them to make content for them to engage with the audience. But we know that actually the issue is basically they have the issue about how basically the sustainable of the advertising, because the issue is basically not every time advertisers can come to us and basically do placement, right? And that's actually the part that actually we see that challenging things about the advertising expenditure with us. So the other hand, what we see here is we have a lot of content coming to the platform, and we actually grow a lot of audience that actually becoming the fans of the platform and the content. So what we think is basically how we can actually make the most sustainable revenue streams along the way. So what we think is basically how can we make the fandom or the fans economic. So the way it works is basically we want to create a way of how creators can actually make money on our platform. So that's why we introduced the concept of pay per content. So this is how basically a creator can actually make a great content and basically sell it to the audience directly. So we try to pilot it with one of the biggest podcasts that actually we have. It's called Musuh Masyarakat, or we call it, or in English it means Public Enemy. So they have the content like the dark jokes that is really big, and it's something that actually they have millions of streams every month. So they already have the audience and the fandom that actually attached to their IP. However, one of the hosts got busted because he illegally used the drugs that which is not basically permissible here. So the plan to pilot this project with this IP is delayed. And during his rehab, he's basically doing some diary. He writes his experience using a diary on a notebook. And then once he gets out from the rehab after 6 months, we had an idea with him. Why don't we actually turn that diary into a podcast?
2 minutes left.
2 minutes, okay. So basically, this is the idea that we think that their fans have been waiting for his story during his rehab, right? And then actually we have the idea to turn that story into a podcast that actually the fans have been waiting for. So surprisingly, basically within a month, basically they can actually, the content itself can make 50,000 US dollars, which is a big amount of money within just less than 4 weeks. So the way we see it is basically because he has a big fans and he has a lot of great stories to share, the fans want to actually pay for that. And after that particular show is done, he continues with the bigger IP, which is the Musuh Masyarakat, the one that got delayed. And less than 2 years, this particular show have been collecting around $1 million of people actually paying for that podcast. So the way actually we see is the notes that actually we can share is, one is build the massive fandom. Try to basically engage with your audience because they actually love your story. They would like to pay for that. Number two, create the great content and distribute the content on a great platform that actually can let you monetize it from your fans. And basically, after you have done these three, repeat that over and over and it becomes your money-making machine for your show. I think that's all from us.
Well done, well done, well done. 4:37 with time to spare. That's an excellent way to monetize. And I have to say, Noise are really doing some really interesting things. Selling kidneys is not one of them, I'm glad to say. So thank you very much to Rado. You were in very last minute to replace Nicken. But up next is all the way from the Philippines, hot off the Podcast Day Asia stage, Mr. Ron Biatong, please. Big round of applause for the OG. Up you get. Click on. You tell me when you're ready to go, and I'll start you off.
All right. 5 minutes. All right. Thanks very much again. How do you follow that up? It's from selling kidneys. I don't know which organ I'm going to sell.
Are you starting your 5 minutes? Are you starting your 5 minutes? Click on.
Where do I point? Here?
No, I don't know.
To you?
Point at that man. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. All right. Thanks so much. So again, 30 ideas in 40 minutes. Here's my 5, and I just want to make this very, very quick and probably be a bit contrarian. So I'll start first. Again, we're Podcast Network Asia. In the Philippines, we are the biggest creator of content, and we're also the post-production powerhouse that helps a lot of podcasters in the US and a bit in Dubai actually post-produce for cheap. And this is the patterns that we've been seeing, and these are 5 topics I want to discover, or I want to cover real quick. So the first one is distribution is the new production. Everybody's been saying it here. Before you even launch a podcast, you have to have a proper go-to-market strategy. Because most podcasters, whether it's an indie or media companies, the sad part is when people create content, unless you have a certain following, they have this mindset of if you build it, they will come. There is a power law in this industry. And if you do not have a go-to market, if you cannot run or simulate the numbers, you cannot win. And that relies on hosts, your ability to actually market, and your approach on how to engage fans. Because great podcasts are not a fluke. You can actually manufacture one if you do it well. And the way that you actually unlock that is through distribution. Distribution not just on short-form platforms, but also in long-form platforms. Second one, I'm going to get hurled at here. But the ad model is broken, especially in audio, where we will be pigeonholed all the time. Unless you have massive CPMs that you can do or massive reach, it's hard to win in podcasting. I'm not saying in radio, in podcasting. So it's hard to do that, and you need to have ownership, co-ownership with IP, so you have skin in the game with content creators. If you do not give them a skin in the game, it's going to be very hard for content creators to care and just actually not treat it just like a job. You want to give them the upside, so you go to grow the content together. And through that, then you'll have multiple streams of income. Ads is one, sponsorships are one, the other one can be subscriptions. Through Patreon and whatnot, you have to have multiple streams of income depending on the show. And depending on the content creator, you should give them skin in the game. And again, let's call it what it is. We're not competing with podcasts. We're competing with TikTok, right? Doom scrolling is a thing, and you need to be able to feed that behemoth with content that you derive from your own podcast content. Now, they're not the absolute enemy. You can turn TikTok to your advantage and actually use it to be a good thing. We're even dabbling into this thing called the TikTok Shop. Where in TikTok, I don't know if you guys know, TikTok Shop gives 15 to 30% commissions per sale on their affiliate marketing. Imagine if you have so many clips producing or talking about a certain product and people buy through your yellow basket, 15 to 30% per sale. We knew this can be a thing because in Podcast Network Asia in 2020, we did this for Lazada, the biggest e-commerce, one of the biggest e-commerce platforms. On pure audio only, we sold $20,000. Imagine doing that in TikTok where you have a visual. It's not the enemy. You need to turn that to your advantage. Fourth, is podcasting is already post-podcast. So again, Max Cutler of former founder or the founder of Parcast, who was acquired by Spotify, who's now the founder of Pave Studios, recently, just a few months ago, said that podcasting is dead as we know it. Lines are blurred, short form, video, whatever. You need to be able to adapt in a world where RSS exists but coexists with other platforms on the same content that you create. And the one thing that matters is you generate hits. Generate hits for the audience, generate hits for the content creator, but also generate hits for the brands who's willing to support this content. Because at the end of the day, we need their support in order for this to be a thriving industry. And the last one, and I need you guys to ponder on this, and the next breakout podcast won't even look like a podcast anymore. Some brands are even talking to us like, hey, can you create a podcast? Well, it looks like carpool karaoke. I'm like, what the hell? How do I put a road mic in there? Is it even legal to carry a mic while you're driving? You're going to get pulled over, right? In the wrong state, you're going to go to jail, right? But this is the type of request now that we have. People podcasting while they're taking a bath, whatever. The lines are so blurred, but as long as it's long form, done in a properly mastered podcast audio platform, like how we used to do it, but going crazy and still able to generate a hit, that's our future. So let's be open to the new future with video through short form, long form, and everything. And I think we're just at the cusp or at the precipice of a brand new bright future for all of us. Thanks so much.
Ooh, well done, well done, well done. Bang on. Thank you, Ron. Thank you so much. Next up, moving away from the world of podcasts and coming to us from India. She was on the AI panel earlier, and she's here to talk about misinformation and news. Archana Kapoor from the Smart Festival. Thank you, everybody. Big up.
I'm not starting yet. Nessa, you've been very unfair, putting me with all these youngsters here. They are talking a different language, a different world, a different medium I know nothing about. So sorry, guys. I'm going to come back to radio, and I'm going to talk about some real stories because I don't understand this.
Okay, your time starts now, Archana. I'm just afraid of you, so anyway, I gave you the extra.
Now, where do I click? No, first let me learn to click.
Click, click. Yeah.
Yeah, finally. Okay, so guys, sorry about this, but this is what I'm going to talk about. I thought it was 5 ideas on production, 5 ideas on how to make your audience more engaged with you, because I'm still old well. So anyway, this was my thing, misinformation, and we see a lot of it. Some of it state promoted, some of it YouTubers promoted, some of it AI promoted. So I'm only going to talk about how to fight this fake news. So I was coming up with some ideas for the purists, for the radio broadcasters, do a game show, fake versus fact, where you can, it's a quiz. I'm sure a lot of you are already doing this, because last time when I was here in Jakarta about 6 years back, there was this fake news going on, don't eat bananas because somebody's injecting worms in it. How many people in Jakarta heard about it? This is a fact. This is a fact fake news. So this is what, so how do you bust these news? How do you keep your audience's face safe so, the RJ can throw out these questions and then you can try to bust them and, of course, acknowledge those who bust them. Then the second is, a weather report. We've been talking a lot about weather reports. We've been talking about how people are using AI to generate weather reports. I'm talking about misinformation weather report. So you can talk about where there's a thunder, where there's a storm, where there's a drizzle, where there's a downpour, and you could link it to what is the level of fake news in those areas, and then you could try to say that, okay, Mr. Trump has disappeared is a thunder. So, how do you bust that? So that is how you can, look at it and, you know, you can keep on talking about the different states, the different districts, and what you're doing there. The third idea is the deep fake. We are all talking about deep seek, but here I'm talking about deep fake. So the deepfake lab, where you can pick up one misinformation and you can peel it off layer by layer. So an AI created voice, an AI created image, an AI created voice, you know, because in my country, the prime minister is singing the best of the 1970s. So how do you know that it's not the prime minister, but it is some you know, very famous artist who died many, many years ago. So how do you kind of peel off these layers and reach out to your audience and tell them that this is a fake and this is a fact? Idea number 4 is sell truth slots. So I've been hearing all these sessions, and I know that marketing and revenue is very key, $1 million, $20,000. I've heard all these figures in this session itself. So you can sell your truth slots. Why don't you start marketing the truth slots? This is a very good way to get, you know, some people who believe in you, who believe in the medium, and who believe that fake news is taking away lives. So you could start selling those. Your marketing guys could be selling these truth slots, and I can assure you, not $1 million, but certainly you'll make some money. Lastly, build a confession booth. We all know that confession booths, we all know that individuals are responsible for collective fake news. You get a fake news, you push it, and then many people are sending it. It becomes viral. In India, we cannot forward more than 5 WhatsApp at a time. We cannot forward to more than 5 people because of this infodemic of fake news. So that's where I'm talking about. So you can have a midnight slot, and I know that Steve once organized an interview on Women's Day at 12 a.m. at night on his ABC News with me. So I know that there are people who are listening. So maybe at 12 or 1 a.m., you could have this confession booth. You could open it up. People would come in and say, hey, I'm responsible for spreading this fake news. And maybe the next day, the RJ could just come in and keep the names a secret and say that we are all responsible for the world that we are living in. So as a radio broadcaster, I think fighting fake news is about co-creating. It is about confession, it is about creativity, it is about compassion, and it is about inoculating your audience against lies and fortifying yourselves against fake news. Thank you so much.
Well done. That was 4 minutes, 40 seconds. Well done, Archana. Thank you for bringing us back to radio, and thank you for talking about fake news and misinformation. So we've flown through our ideas. You've had 25 of them so far, and now we're going to hit the last 5 with Corey Layton, who was our keynote speaker, so it is very appropriate that you would now close the conference as well.
I'll give it a go.
Clicker,
Are you
whenever
starting
you're ready.
time? That's annoying. How is everyone doing? Everyone's ready? Okay, let's do the final 5, and this one's going to be just total audio, a mix of broadcast and also podcast. And I'm going to kick off. I've got a whole lot of just gifts to really kick you in. Push for data, not just engagement. This is very much a broadcast concept. And that is, we should all be pushing for more first-party data. When it comes to the broadcast teams in the room, please stop asking people to call or to text to win. It is really important that you use your digital platforms to drive people in so you can contact them again and go, hey, we would love it if you interacted with us in this specific promotion or interview. These are the times that you want to be able to reach out to people and pull them back in. Second one, stop guessing and start knowing. I screwed up so badly when I started in my role at ARN and iHeart. Some of you would have heard of Kyle and Jackie O. It is a very well-known radio show in Australia. Every single day, they put out a podcast that goes for over 2 hours. And when I first arrived, I was like, what the hell are we doing? Why would anyone possibly want to listen for over 2 hours? This is crazy. What I got wrong is just how many people want to listen. And what you really need to do is start understanding your audience by using the data. And this is a great example of that. There is a team in Canada called Bumper who have an incredible dashboard that we use for all of our podcasts. And it takes data like Apple and Spotify and gives you real-time analytics as to actually what the time spent listening is of a podcast, looking beyond the download and actually looking at verified listeners. And what you can very clearly see here from Kyle and Jackie O, for instance, is they've got over 85% of people listening for the entire 2 to 2.5 hours every single day. The beauty of this data and what you need to be doing is, be it on broadcast or podcast, be handing it to your producers. Make sure your producers are given the data of the real-time, second-by-second listening, so they can not only make gut decisions, but be supported by the data into where people are skipping your content and where people are actually listening, because it's super powerful. Next up, while yes, some people listen to Kyle and Jackie O for a long time, runtime can be a huge barrier, particularly for brand new podcasts or ones that aren't yet established in the market. You would all know this, but maybe not think of this. When you go to listen to a podcast, particularly in audio, there's that runtime, and you make a subconscious decision: do I have time to press play on this podcast now, or should I do it tomorrow? And if the answer is tomorrow because it's too long for today, tomorrow actually never comes. So respect your audience's time and keep podcasts, particularly when they're in their formative stages or formative year, concise. Next up, I agree with Ron. There is a huge opportunity when it comes to video in audio, but we do need to remember that there are times when audio is the best way forward, particularly when it comes to narrative podcasts or crime-based podcasts. You could go and produce a documentary in video, but often it's just not right. And here are some incredible shows from around the world where video would just not work. So try and make it work, but don't force it. The last one, I think Radiodays is a perfect example of this. Who has met someone new over the last 2 days? Show of hands. Awesome. I think it's really important that we don't stop doing that at a conference like this. You should talk across borders, not just hallways. Something that I've learned is it's well worthwhile getting in touch with a company that does exactly what you do from another territory and share. Even put in place a non-disclosure agreement to be really open about it and making sure that you are sharing across all sorts of problems that we all have. Networking versus local, AI, monetization, team structures. There's so many of the same problems we are all having, and it's imperative that you find the similar company that does the same thing on the other side of the world and share. That's it. Thank you very much.
Well done, well done, well done. Thanks a million, Corey. And that was a great